Prior commitments kept the Trevinos from coming back at this time, and in their place, the Gilleys took their son John and their daughter Amy to work in the crusade to be held in Odessa on the Black Sea.
We were scheduled to go to Dnipropetrovsk first for services on Friday night and all-day Sabbath. We looked forward with great anticipation and some fear, wondering what would we find. Would those who were baptized in the warmth of the July crusade still be attending church in the cold of December?
How thrilled the evangelistic team was as they arrived to find hundreds of new church members who were still faithful and very excited about the gospel, and now had gathered with their friends as some 1,300 people packed the auditorium with practically no advertising. The church choir, made up mostly of talented young people in the church, and the new members sang as if they had been singing together for years. And the team was to find that where there had been only one church with an attendance of 50 to 60, now there were 3 churches with an attendance of between 500 and 600. And as the team left the auditorium on the way to Odessa, they waved goodbye to the members of Dnipropetrovsk, knowing that the promise of God's rainbow over the baptism spot had been kept.
The church members there had been so impressed by the rainbow and spoke of it so often. A young man painted a picture of our summer crusade team with the double rainbow in the background and presented it to us.
From the very first, those who knew Odessa had cautioned the team not to be disappointed if their results were much smaller there. It's a seaport city of about 1.5 million people with 100,000 university students. It is a very difficult place to do evangelism. In addition, the auditorium could only seat about 1,000 people and was on a side street and not very accessible. After an all-night train ride, they arrived at the station and were greeted with the ceremonial Ukrainian greeting of bread and salt. By the time they had checked into the hotel and unloaded the luggage, they barely had an hour to put up the screen and to start the meeting. But all went smoothly, and the auditorium was packed as Ivan Kosovas began to sing.
Мог и грехи светить. Люди, будьте добры, станьте чуточку жизни добрее. Пусть от ваших сердец теплоты станет теплее.
Я понізна плечах тяга, цілого світу.
Let me tell you something about the life of Jesus Christ.
Но еще вам скажу одно об Иисусе Христе.
It was in total harmony with the Word of God.
Его жизнь была в полной гармонии со Словом Божьим.
You see, everything that Christ did was totally in harmony with God's law. And if anyone ever tries to teach you that Jesus Christ is something less than God, then you straighten out quickly.
The attendance grew from night to night. 2 sessions were held as hundreds of people came to the meetings and began to make their decisions for Jesus Christ. Again, the children's program was a great hit, and they were taught the story of the birth of Jesus Christ. John and Amy found that the loneliness of spending Christmas away from the rest of the family and friends was made up for by the excitement of sharing Christ with those that had never heard the familiar story of the shepherds of the fields, and the wise men, and Mary and Joseph, and the baby Jesus who was to grow up and to show us the way to live, and then to die on the cross that we might have life.
Jesus, Lord, at thy birth.
As decisions were made, hundreds began to prepare for baptism and membership in the remnant church.
Those who were baptized were an unusually well-educated group. We had a retired Army colonel, and there was another colonel who was just retiring. This officer said to me, "I have an excellent education, but now it is complete because I've found out about Jesus Christ, and I've made him my Savior." There were university students and professors. There were physicians, and there were people from all walks of life. When the call for decision for Jesus Christ came, there were so many that it was impossible to bring them forward. There was just not enough room to receive them. So we had to have them stand where they were and fill out the decision cards. Nearly everyone in the auditorium stood.
The day of the baptism came, and an indoor pool was rented. Buses were brought to take those who were being baptized to the pool. There was hardly any room for spectators. The group being baptized was gathered on the floor of an adjoining gymnasium to be addressed by Pastor Gilley and to be examined doctrinally by Elder Shukaluk. And then the wonderful baptism began. Over 400 that day went into the watery grave, and 70 the next week. At the close, a new church was formed, which now has over 470 brand new members. They were introduced to their new pastor, Pastor Vasily, who had conducted the baptismal class. The team part of the campaign closed in a glorious closing night, but a Bible class was formed that night, which continues, and the auditorium was rented ahead for 1 year so that the church might meet there each Sabbath. Pray for our brothers and sisters in Russia, that their freedom might continue and that they might reach millions of lost with a Christ that saves.
Happy for you. Just want to shake hands. Happy. Okay. Good to see you.